On this episode, he's a French modeling agent. He's a founder of MC2 Models, accused of supplying the underage girls to Epstein for this exploitation.
I mean, I guess he was a whistleblower, right? He was a whistleblower. You can call him a whistleblower.
100% a whistleblower.
He's kind of the be-all, end-all of whistleblowers when it comes to UFOs.
Once people start to realize that, or maybe the underlings of those people, that you're getting lied to too, they're not going to fall in line anymore.
Raise your glass to mysteries, cocktails and conspiracies. Dive into these histories, cocktails and conspiracies. Raise your glass to mysteries, cocktails and conspiracies. Uncover those anomalies, cocktails and conspiracies.
Fresh off the heels of a 4-part series chasing the Ark of the Covenant throughout all of Europe and most of the world, honestly, we are back once again to talk to you a little bit more about current events and something that just hit the news very recently on April 25th. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Shane Skwarek, here as always with my esteemed co-hosts, the always eccentric Mr. Philipps. I'm not going to give you the full Mr. today. I'm just I gotta work myself back into it. And after a 4-part episode on the Ark, Mr. Philipps, the voice is a little beat up, the throat particularly. How are we doing? No answer to that. How are we doing?
You blanked out a second. It's probably on me. What
Yeah,
I was
no, it's
going to
definitely
say was, as long as I have a drink, I don't care what you say.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'll take that. Today's a somber day because Seymour Weiner has passed away and is a beloved New York Met. I know that probably bothers you quite a bit.
I was going to say, very near and dear to my heart was Mr. Seymour Weiner. I mean, that was one of the most Mets things that they have ever done. and listen, the Mets have, for a very long time, have been one of the laughing stocks of Major League Baseball, right? They've kind of been the Jets of the MLB, and my, oh my, was that a Mets thing. But the fans embraced it. We loved Seymour Weiner, and it's very sad to see that Seymour Weiner, a former service member, has unfortunately passed away. So we bid adieu to you, Seymour.
So what's the context behind this? Because I see his name and I just immediately laugh, but it's clearly there has to be like an inside joke. Like somebody couldn't seriously be named Seymour Weiner.
Dude, I swear to God, this is this guy's name, right? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that he goes by a pseudonym, if you will.
Sure.
But last season they did. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were honoring him. I believe he was a World War II vet, or he was definitely a veteran. Might have been World War II. The guy was pretty old, and his name was Seymour Weiner, and it kind of just went viral on social media after they honored him at the game. Yeah, I can't imagine why, right? It just went viral. And last season there was a lot of Mets magic. We had Grimace throwing out the first pitch. That became a huge thing. But even before Grimace, there was Seymour Weiner, and it just kind of took on and was beloved by Met fans all around.
God, that's hilarious. I thought maybe he was like an old former player or something. I didn't realize he was just like a random person they were honoring. It's even better.
Just some guy.
That adds to the lore even more so.
Yeah.
But this is not a baseball podcast, and God help us, it's not a Mets one either. I'd be seriously lost in either of those two situations. One of the things that I wanted to touch on tonight, Mr. Philipps, is super recent in the news, and we don't always do these kind of timely pieces because they generally don't age well, but I thought this topic, really centering it around whistleblowers, has some staying power because it's something that we've broached numerous times in previous episodes. We always kind of allude to a lot of these things, and we always kind of challenge it a little bit too. The idea of a whistleblower, and for those, I guess, giving some context, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what it is, but for those kind of not in the know, a whistleblower is really any person that comes out and blows the whistle, exposes something bad that's happening in anything, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a conspiracy sense, but If there's bad labor conditions in a job, they come out and they speak about that. You see this all the time, like big major companies like Amazon or Walmart, and they'll talk about the conditions in the factories or something like that. It's particularly when, they're dumping a bunch of things overseas to China, and you're wondering why you're getting something on Temu for $11 that costs $45 in the United States. Well, it's generally why. But it's also sometimes when businesses are cutting corners, right? And maybe Boeing is maybe one we'll broach on a little bit tonight too, is you're cutting corners on aircraft, and all of a sudden you see these aircraft start crumbling in midair and it's causing accidents. And on the scale of the number of flights, maybe it's not a big deal, but when it happens, it makes major news. So it can really stretch a wide variety of things. And then again, go into like government, right? So some of the most famous whistleblowers are Ed Snowden, who, exposed that the NSA was spying on us, and that becomes kind of in that political arena. So this kind of is widespread, and I think we're going to try to broach a number of different subjects here. But the one that kind of initiated this podcast episode tonight, this topic, is the death on the 25th, which, as we're recording this, what is today? The 29th?
4 days ago.
Yeah, and you all see this on May 1st, on Thursday. So it's just super timely. But this is the death of Virginia Giuffre, who, again, for those not aware of who she is, she's probably... I don't know if you'd say she's the number one whistleblower, but she was certainly one of the big key whistleblowers in the Jeffrey Epstein case with Ghislaine Maxwell. Really the one that brings in Prince Andrew as kind of the marquee figure in these claims, tying this whole case together. And obviously, the ongoing joke, Epstein didn't kill himself, blah, 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 and how that's kind of lingered has persisted, and it's become a little bit of a punchline here, but still very real. And we did an episode ourselves with somebody that escaped Epstein Island.
We did.
Jennifer Guskin, and you can go back and check that episode out. It's gut-wrenching. I don't know if you remember that one at all, Mr. Phillips.
Oh, that I do. It was probably the most somber one we've ever done. Usually we're very loosey-goosey, and that was not a loosey-goosey episode. It was a very serious episode, my friend. I walked away from that like, damn.
Yeah, that was you. I think you summarized that pretty well. Very serious episode. Definitely walked away from that very, very damned up. It goes to show though that I think pop culture has this way of taking something really serious and making it unserious. If that makes sense. Just like beating it, like memeing it to death, right? The whole Epstein thing is memed to death, that it exists and everyone talks about it and jokes about it all the time. We're never going to get the list, blah, blah, blah. Well, we might really never get the list, and people are just going to joke about that to the end of time instead of getting angry about it. And so when you see what happens to Virginia, it's kind of an awakening to a degree, whether or not we believe it's true. And I guess that's a great place to start is, let me finish my thought, is whether or not it's true. It's a ramification of this story or this saga that perhaps didn't need to reach this crescendo here. So with that, Mr. Phillips, you took a deep breath there, like you had to really get something out.
Look, we're going to get into the story of Virginia Giuffre, but regardless of, it's probably one of those things, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it's most likely one of those things we'll never get all the facts on. But because of the circumstances surrounding A, her death, B, her involvement in the whole Epstein case, you're gonna have, it's gonna be split factions, right? Like you're gonna have some people that believe in one thing, some people that believe in another thing. It's sadly we'll probably never know.
Sadly, we probably will never know. I mean, hopefully we will one day, but again, kind of going back to what we were just saying right there, unlikely. Virginia's story really mirrors that of Jennifer Guskin, one of our previous guests, and a lot of the other stories about those that you see. And I'm going to choose my words kind of carefully here, so I apologize if it's a little confusing. We're really trying to get those limited tags lifted off of our videos, so it helps our channel grow. So since they always tag us, just like and subscribe us anyway. Share it with a friend. That helps us bypass that stuff. A lot of the stories of these whistleblowers related to Epstein or Diddy-like events all sort of start the same way. born into a broken home, very much abused as a young child, either by family members or family friends or some sort of an acquaintance. And that at some point during their young lives, if they're not going through like the system because they're given up by their parents and they're going through foster care, at some point maybe they just run away, the parents go to jail, they die, they're alone at a very young age. For Virginia, she ends up working, she ends up running away at a very young age, I think around 16, and then gets a job working at actually Mar-a-Lago, Trump's resort in Palm Beach, Florida. Her father there is a maintenance supervisor, probably gets her the job at there. By the age of 17, she meets Ghislaine Maxwell, who is Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand gal at Mar-a-Lago. And again, for those that try to tie Trump into this whole thing, listen, we don't know, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but a lot of people run through these high-end resorts, right? Like it's like we talked in our Diddy episode, we talked a lot about that, is because you were at his house at a party, doesn't mean anything. I mean, how many parties have you been to that people you don't like?
Exactly. How many times have you been at a party, especially when we were younger, growing up, right? And bad shit would happen, right? There's a fight somewhere, or a cop winds up showing up, or whatever, right? It doesn't mean you had anything to do with it. You just happen to be there.
Right. And when you're in this like upper elite echelon of people, these like social circles, you do a lot of stuff with a lot of people maybe don't care for, and maybe you're just there to just show face because it helps elevate your status, and you get out. And I think you'll see that the common thread through all of these types of stories is that like everybody is there. Doesn't mean everyone's guilty, right? Or it doesn't mean everyone's mischievous. So Ghislaine meets this girl Guffrey. What could we just call her Guff, right?
We'll call her
It's
Guff.
a little short. Call her Guff. Ghislaine meets Guff and effectually offers her a job, which, as you might expect, kind of ends up parlaying into what would be the exploitations there. There's rumors the job is like massage therapist. I'm sure every story is going to be a little bit different. A massage therapist, or a model, or just invite people to go party. I talked to you about that movie Blink Twice, where it was like just that, right? Like going to a party and they rope you into this island where again you get taken advantage of.
Forced me to watch eventually, even though I already knew the whole plot.
Oh, true. Did you like the movie though? That's the important part.
It was okay.
But did it click as you're watching? I mean, I spoiled the movie
for sure, 100%, right? Like, I mean, you certainly saw the parallels to the whole Diddy thing, right? It was striking, right? But I mean, because we had already discussed it prior, I kind of knew everything. And she's like, "Why don't you want to watch it?" I'm like, "I know the whole fucking thing already. Like, I don't really want to watch it." But.
Sorry, Mel. I didn't mean to ruin that for you. I mean, in terms of a movie, I enjoyed it, especially watching the first way through. Like, you can kind of guess what happens, fairly predictable, but. I mean, I guess the ending twist really isn't that predictable. It becomes predictable later on.
That was a very good twist. I will give them that. That was a very good twist at the end.
Very good twist. The Blumhouse movies are doing, I think that's a Blumhouse one, are doing really good with that kind of stuff. I think the parallels there, though, were the most striking to me. Because like you said, it's like nail in the head. And this is like right before the Diddy Baby Oil stuff really comes out. I think it maybe just comes out right around the same time. But the movie's obviously made in advance. So it's like, hello, it's almost like sounding alarm bells. In any case, there's a lot of ways that they're landing at this island. The kind of the big strobe light, if you will, the highest profile accusation from Virginia, as you mentioned before, is tying in Prince Andrew, among many others that she claimed. But Prince Andrew becomes sort of her marquee person that, she was solicited out to, for lack of a better term here, and on multiple occasions. And it's so public that there are photos of her at a very young age, at an underage age, with Prince Andrew as this is going on. So I'm assuming that's still within that like 16 to 17-year-old age. Yeah. I'm sure plenty happened thereafter, but that really was the crime that would have happened right there. Of course, there's a lot of defamation that comes with that. Lawsuits against her, lawsuits against him, and so forth as this kind of goes on. But nobody really picked up on it. diving back to her story, and I think we'll get into a little more conversation here. In 2012 is when 2002 is when she actually broke free of kind of Epstein's control, because he sent her out to Thailand for one of these training courses. And instead, I guess she meets a guy named Robert Guffrey, which is why she changes her name to Guffrey. Her name originally was Virginia Roberts. He's a martial arts instructor. She marries him in 10 days. They settle in Australia. FBI ends up tracking her down to build a case against Epstein. So she's off the radar, right? The FBI is going to seek her out. She's married. She's got children, completely on the other side of the world. New name. I mean, I guess Virginia's still there, but very much hidden away.
Yeah, Virginia's not a very common name in this day and age.
Yeah, and I suspect probably not Australia
name.
either.
Yeah.
So when we go into these things, Mr. Philipps, with anything, you always got to ask yourself, when somebody goes public with this kind of information, is there a motive, right? What's the first motive that would pop up in your mind?
It's got to be money.
It's got to be money.
Got to be money.
This is somebody who wasn't publicizing initially their trials and tribulations, their experiences, right? She saw that's a key thing. And like when I was looking a little bit of background on her specifically, that's a key thing that came out to me or jumped out to me, is that the FBI is building a case against Epstein, because at this point they bust him, they track him down, they lock him up. They obviously have the list. They have a lot of other documentations that we've all been clamoring for, that we keep getting promised that we're going to get. But it's not her that comes to them. It's them that goes to her to seek her out. And so that was pretty striking to me. And I'm sure there's more nuance to that story. But if you're doing it for money, there was a lot of opportunities to do that, right? You had the Me Too movement that was popular in like those early 2010 era. And then when Epstein kind of hits the waves, you have, with social media as it is, you have plenty of opportunity to go out there and really publicize what had happened to you. So, and maybe she did to some degree, and maybe she talked about it in circles, and that's how the FBI even knew it or found her. I don't know that for sure. Right. But that was kind of striking to me. What are your thoughts?
No, look, I agree with you. We certainly know for a fact that there have been false claims against people for money, right? So you're not going to know who this is because you're not a baseball guy, but Trevor Bauer was a pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. A few years ago, he was accused of sexual assault by this woman. He was essentially blackballed and kind of banned from the league. He wound up being injured as well, but came back healthy, and he was a free agent. Nobody would sign him. It then comes out later that there were text messages between the woman who accused him of assault and one of her friends that went public, and it blew up her entire story. I mean, there was one. I couldn't tell you verbatim exactly what it said, but it was like, it was stuff like, "You bitch, get that bag." Like, I'm gonna say that he choked me. Blah blah blah. Like, long and short of it, it came out that this woman was lying, right? So we know for a fact that absolutely happens. Mm-hmm. And listen, during the whole Me Too movement, there have been cases, and that's the dangerous part, right? The Me Too movement became believe all women rather. You really kind of can't do that, right? Because there are bad actors in, whether they're male, female, whatever the fuck you want to identify as a fucking carrot. It's 2025. Apparently you can identify as anything. There's bad actors out there, right? So, that's kind of where it gets sketchy. But to your point, the fact that the FBI, I think it was the FBI or the CIA, I think it was FBI.
FBI, yeah. The
fact that the FBI sought her out for her testimony makes it a bit more believable, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Right. I 100% agree. And what you described happens across sports all the time. We can probably have an episode of just that kind of stuff. And so it is always questionable. And if they're not doing that, I mean, there was lawsuits involved, right? So she sued Ghislaine Maxwell for defamation. Obviously, there's a lawsuit against Prince Andrew. Like, there was lawsuits. So I guess there was a monetary gain at some point. But there wasn't like a book deal. It wasn't like there was a lot of like podcast tours or going on tour with a lot of this stuff. It sort of just kind of sprung up out of nowhere when this case was unraveling.
But here's the thing, though. Yeah. Go ahead, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I mean, all I was going to say is that to me tends to... it makes me favor more towards like the legitimacy of this story, that the story correlates with the happenings and it's evidenced by a photo and by FBI's involvement in the case. It's not just somebody popping up and saying, hey, I'm jumping on the bandwagon, I'm here to show the world my side as well.
Yeah. Look, dude, I totally agree. And what I was going to say is, she was sued for defamation, and then she was also suing for defamation. But if Ghislaine and Prince Andrew are going to sue, or if she's going to counter sue for defamation, that means that she had to come out and initially make a statement to begin with, right? So it wasn't like she came out and was initially suing. She just came out with her story, and she didn't necessarily go public. Like, it came out through law enforcement. It's not like she went to the papers and somebody wrote a story about this and that's how the FBI found out about it. Like, she initially just spoke to law enforcement, and then she sued for defamation. So, it's not like she came out initially with a lawsuit and then law enforcement started to listen to her. You know what I mean? Like, that would make it a little bit more sketchy, but that's not what occurred here. It's quite the opposite.
What was really telling and really interesting is after this all starts to materialize, she ends up posting in, I believe it was 2019, or was it that long ago? Let me see if I can pull up that note right here. In any case, it's a few years ago. Here it is. Yeah, in 2019. If I die and they call it SUI, if you get what I'm getting at, it's bullshit. Citing threats from a lot of powerful figures. And at this point, as she's speaking out more freely, the idea that this is going to happen becomes more telling. About a month ago, in March, she ends up getting involved in a major car accident where her vehicle collides with a school bus. That's March 24th. On March 30th, she posts on Instagram claiming the bus was traveling about 70 miles an hour, which is unusual for a school bus to be going that fast.
Yeah, unless you're on the Garden State Parkway.
Right, exactly. Remember, this is not in the United States, so right. I don't know what traffic laws are overseas. But it ends up causing her severe injuries that lead to kidney renal failure. And she writes, I've gone into kidney renal failure. They give me 4 days to live and express the desire to see your children one more time. And the tweet, I guess, ends up including a photo of her on a hospital bed, kind of loaded with facial bruises. There's concern at that point about what had happened. Is there foul play in that car accident? Is it her potentially being a little mentally unstable at this point? I believe at this point, her and her husband may have split up. That's not exactly clear. Yeah, it says she was separated from her husband. She was facing charge of breaching family violence restraining order, which she did not show up for. So she was clearly going off the rails a little bit in her personal life. So maybe this car accident is sort of a product of that. It's hard to say, man. I mean, she does end up getting discharged from the hospital, so she doesn't actually die from this kidney failure. And then, there's another post that says the post was accidental, but there's no direct evidence to confirm this about this car accident thing.
Do we know what country this happened in?
I think it's either in the UK or Australia, or Western Australia. It's saying right here. Yeah.
Right. So we're not talking about a third world country here. So I mean, it's a. Australia is a modernized country. Right.
Modernized country.
The reason why I asked that question was because I just find it odd that this isn't a big part of the story at all, but I find it odd that they give her 4 days to live and she winds up surviving. And the reason why I bring that up, and I want to know the country, was she in some...
Some shithole.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No, that makes sense. It could have been an exaggeration.
Sure.
You never really know. You could have taken from the doctor's words too. Sometimes people go a little bit of hypochondriacs.
Sure.
This is the worst that can happen. This is the best that can happen. If you don't recover, you've got 4 days. Who knows?
Dude, listen, I told my wife many times, if God forbid, if I'm ever diagnosed with some kind of terminal illness, do me in.
Put me down.
I can't handle it. You know what to do.
Don't worry, man. I'll make sure that happens.
I can understand being a hypochondriac. I get it, baby.
For sure.
I get it.
For sure. there's a flurry of like weird social media activity when she returns to Instagram in April, including just like posting the video for that song, "Somebody That I Used to Know," which I think was probably more of an allusion to the separation from the husband and whatever was going on with the children not being able to see them. So her mental state was surely in disarray, according to the people that are around her, and that obviously brings us to April 25th, where she's found unresponsive at a farm in near Gabby, Western Australia, and that's like one word, Mr. Fields, near Gabby. And she's declared dead at the scene despite emergency first aid, and they say that she died from the big S, with the quote, "The toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight," and confirmed, early indications suggesting it's not suspicious. We're a week out of this thing, so who actually knows what happens? But
Did they disclose the method, if you will?
not that I'm aware of, or at least not that I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works in Australia, if it's any different than the United States. I suspect we're going to start to find out more of that, possibly in coming weeks, but I guess that's probably up to the family as well. I mean, Australia's a lot more liberal than we are, and thus they're a lot more locked down with very authoritarian policies. So they might not want to say anything at all if they, given that they're control freaks over there. I don't know, but I find just I was going to say the timeline of events just a little bit suspicious, but I'm reluctant to always say that, because if you did go through all this stuff, right, you went through all this abuse, I don't doubt that it weighs a heavy toll on your head, right? Like you and I can't really remotely fathom what it would be like to go through that and then just like kind of continue on.
Yeah.
Especially now when like your story's out there, right? And like there's plenty of people online that probably believe you and behind you, but there's also a lot of people that think this is rubbish and think this is nonsense and think that you're just exaggerating, which maybe you are. I mean, the brain's very unreliable. We've discussed that ad nauseum here. Yeah. But to have to endure that, and then the relentless ridicule and I guess just the weight of all of that on you and your family, and try to raise children at the same time, it could be a lot. And so I don't want to necessarily rule out the big S entirely.
Sure.
But I find it suspicious. The car accident with a 70-mile-an-hour school bus just seems a little odd. I don't know that any school bus goes that fast ever, but I don't know, man.
Look, you raise a very good point, right? It's for what she went through. And so you got to look at it two ways, right? Because you're certainly going to have people that don't believe her story to begin with. Okay.
Yeah.
So you look at it from two ways. If she really went through that, that's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
Okay. If she made that up, she's clearly not mentally stable. So either way, whether it's true or it's untrue, you have somebody that's for a lack of better term, damaged when they come out of it, right? And so, to your point, her home life was not going well. She had a separation, kids were involved, so you've got a combination of a very traumatic event that either did or didn't occur, somebody who's clearly already suffering some mental issues from that event, or at least the belief of that event. And I'll go on the record and say I do believe her story, by the way. I'm just throwing it out there to play devil's advocate. We don't know. We're not the all-seeing eye, even though we have it on our logo. We don't know if she was actually and those things happened. I do believe her, though. So you had somebody that had that super traumatic event, somebody that's going through a separation or a divorce. You have kids who were involved. She starts getting a little wacky. So, yeah, look, it very well could be that, unfortunately, the big S just struck her, right? Having said that, what better way to get rid of somebody and to stop somebody from talking than to make it look like that, right? Well, we've seen that play out 1,000 times. I mean, we could talk about Jeffrey himself. I don't know a single person on planet Earth that actually believes that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Not a single one.
Yeah, it's again, I go back to saying like the meme thing. It's a shame that it's quite literally become a meme. And I was listening to a crime podcast by, God, his name is slipping my mind, Matthew Cox. Super interesting guy, worth checking it out. I think it's like Inside True Crime or something like that. Basically, Matthew Cox was like a big fraudster, and he like defrauded tons of banks and monies and stuff like that. Served his time and whatnot. But I first found him by listening to a 3.5-hour podcast, or maybe 4-hour podcast that he did with Lex Friedman. I've never been more gripped by a podcast story than that. And so I follow him loosely on his social channels just 'cause the time of the day doesn't allow me to listen to everything. But they had talked about the Epstein thing. And he said, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he just paid somebody off. He knew what was coming to him. He just paid somebody off. And that's why the cameras went out. And, he got what he needed to do what he needed to do. Does Matthew Cox totally believe that? No. And he's not trying to suggest that. But he also says that in the method in which it happened and knowing what the prison system is like, not out of the realm of possibility whatsoever. All of the tie-ins to what happened certainly seem fishy, but certainly not out. When I look at Virginia, in an individual case, it's hard to say yes or no. But when you start to kind of, I'm gonna do this. This is a great effect for you guys here, right? This is right here. Okay, you see me? You see my big eye right here? You all seeing eyes right now? Virginia is right here, right? But when you start to kind of change the focus and you zoom out a little bit, look at that. Oh my God, the use of artistic creation here. When you start to zoom out and look at the whole picture, everything else that's now around us, you've got Jean-Luc Brunel. He's a French modeling agent. He's a founder of MC2 Models, accused of supplying the underage girls to Epstein for this exploitation. Virginia Giuffre alleges that Brunel is the one that was doing all this, found dead in his cell at a prison in Paris in 2022. You've got Guffrey herself. You've got Carolyn Andriano, again, a victim and accuser whose testimony was instrumental in Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction in 2021, says that her abuse started at 14. Found dead in West Palm Beach, Florida, hotel room, age 38, accidental drug overdose. Could it be? Sure. Stephen Hoffenberg, business associate and mentor, convicted of a $460 million Ponzi scheme in the 90s, claimed that, Epstein was the architect of the scheme. Found dead in Derby, Connecticut, 2022, age 77, so a lot older, but medical examiners say he died at least 7 days earlier of natural causes and then just decomposed after there. Ruslana Korshanova died in 2008 after falling from a 9th floor Manhattan balcony.
That happens.
Again,
That
Russian
happens all the
model tied to Epstein's jet in the 2000s, 2 years before her death. Pedro Gaspar, the list really goes on, and all the deaths are always suspicious. It's drug overdoses, it's taking their own lives, it's natural causes, but nobody finds them for over a week, so they decompose. Is it all possible? Yes. If you're weighed with guilt, and I've never felt this way, so I'm giving the benefit of the doubt there, but if you're overwhelmed with this guilt, maybe you just know what's coming, right? If you get caught, is it possible that, you say, you know what, I'm just going to pull the plug here and make it easy on myself because I just don't have the strength to go through the next phase of this. Is that possible? Sure. But is it possible when it happens over and over and over again? And I'm not going to do the lens thing again because I don't want to knock my camera over and break it. It was expensive, but you get the idea.
I was gonna say it's possible. It's unlikely. It's statistically, it's. I have to imagine it's unlikely that you would have so many people that were involved in such a high profile case, and that amount of people decided to do that. I feel like statistically that's an impossibility. And look, at the end of the day, right? Like, and I always kind of feel like when even when you and I are discussing things on here, we try to play, both of us. I think we do a pretty good job of playing devil's advocate of saying, yep, so it's certainly possible. We can't prove it. Look, in my heart of hearts, I'm just calling bullshit, man. Like, I just got to tell you what I think, right? And I think that I think that's all bullshit. you know, if you want to say maybe one or two of them, yeah, sure, maybe they did actually do that to themselves. But that amount of people that were involved in this case are just off the earth by their own doing. I just find that hard to believe. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
Yeah, man, it's something that we're really never going to be able to prove and say for sure one way or another. And as much as, you know, we try to allude to the fact that we can prove it, because, you know, if the Epstein files are released, it's going to prove all this stuff. I just don't think that they're actually ever going to be released. I don't think we're going to get that. And when we do, I mean, the flight logs have been released for years, and that's the only other thing that's surfaced. So I don't know if anything ever is going to come of that, because I think it's going to liken itself back to when we talked about, I forgot what episode number that was. We talked about, oh God, who's that one Anna Paulina Luna. And she made this huge announcement. They're going to release all these files. Goodness gracious, golly gee. She's going to release all these files and stuff. And what we said is that, like, when you look at like the JFK stuff, everybody that's related to it is going to be dead by the time that comes out. We're dying. And so most people won't care because it's out of our purview at this point, right? All the people that cared about that are also probably dead. And it's going to feel so distant. The Epstein stuff is still fresh enough where there's enough impact in the political landscape and the Hollywood landscape that it wouldn't just ruin the careers of those people. Because I don't know that anybody really gives two shits about the careers of those people, in so much as it changes the instability of the minds of the people that look up to them. And you can see that a lot with like the Me Too movement, right? Like that was a big awakening moment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the place to go into whether we buy into a lot of what happened and what came of that and the whole cancel culture that came from here. Maybe it's not the place for us to discuss that today, but like, look at Bill Cosby, right? Super beloved. And now people that built their careers looking up to him as an idol can't even name drop him. You look at people like Kevin Spacey, who some crazy stories came. Yeah. And he was like, again, trying to figure out the words I can use and not use here, but he was basically taking advantage of underage boys, and had a lot of allegations against him in that arena. And, you know, ends up, I listened to a podcast with him too. I forgot who that was with. It might have actually also been Lex, but him just sort of coming out and trying to apologize. And it just felt half-hearted to me. Probably not, again, the place for that either, but a lot of people looked at him and looked at his films as like, wow, like these are like really marquee things. These are great. His show, House of Cards, how many people loved that? It was a hit show at the time. Yeah. Harvey Weinstein is probably the biggest name to come out of that. Not that we knew who Harvey Weinstein is, but when you go back and you see hundreds of movies that he was tied to, and it's like there's a degree of guilt involved in going back and watching those movies, because then you're going to get that like jerk off that's like, well, that's a Harvey Weinstein movie. That means you support what he does? Well, no, but the movie was fucking funny, right?
What, am I going to not watch any fucking movie ever made? I mean, the guy made every fucking movie out there. Exactly. We should just wipe off half the catalog of movies ever made from like 1985 to now. Get the fuck out of here. Let's be realistic. Like, come on.
Dude, that's the craziest part to me, is how many things that guy had his hands in.
He
so many.
Everything.
No pun intended. No pun intended there at all.
Or who?
Yeah.
But here's the difference. Here's the difference, though, right? The difference between everybody that you just talked about and Epstein is the fact that it's widely, I think probably even accepted at this point, that Epstein was tied to a specific government in the Middle East that you just can't speak out against for many different reasons. I'm sure you could probably think of a few.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference for me, right? So if we're talking about Diddy or Harvey Weinstein or Cosby, you know, those are Hollywood guys, and, you know, and look, does it make our blood boil? Yes, for sure, 100%. And you know, do we want to get to the bottom of all of it? Absolutely. But the difference is the implications that Epstein was involved with a foreign government, and that foreign government was actually the one that was running him as an agent, specifically a government that nobody can speak out against for whatever reason. That fucking pisses me off even more.
Hypotheses. Sure. I want to disclaimer that it is more of a hypothesis than anything else. But yeah, I think I would tend to agree with your assessment on that. And I think in his case too, it's the organizational. It's a mob boss, right? It's a whole organizational structure that was set in place, and that's why I think like the Diddy thing is hit so hard, is because that seems like there's a clean tie to that. Not to say that they're the only ones involved, but I also tend to believe that it gets foggy, right? Because much like the Diddy parties, I'm sure there were a lot of business associates that either were involved with him in business or at some of these events and maybe not involved with the activities, or that maybe were forced into them for one reason or another. And we heard that from Jennifer Guskin too, where she talked quite a bit about people that would be there and sort of be blackmailed into doing it and not want to be, but now you've got something on somebody. And how do you now sift through that, right? And sort the good intentioned from the bad intentioned. And I think that's hard. And I think everyone will, of course, say they're good intentioned. And even if they weren't, they could be the worst accuser. I'm sure Diddy himself is saying that, oh, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just, I didn't know what I was getting involved with. I was forced to do it. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone's always got an apology tour afterwards, right? Good PR firms.
Yep.
My guess is that's why we'll never know, because it ruins too much of society. I mean, I think we'll get a handful of like dirtbag names that'll come out.
Diddy or Epstein?
Both of them. Both of them. I think you're going to get a bunch of nobodies that are going to come out, and they'll be like, some like jerk off that was like a Wall Street guy, or that like owned some sort of a company that nobody's ever even heard of. And you'll get one like low profile guy that maybe got busted for something else. Like, I forgot the name that I mentioned before, tied to the Epsteins, but the guy that was nailed for like embezzlement. I'm trying to see if I can grab his name.
Oh, the guy that ran the Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, Hoffenberg here. Yeah, the $460 million Ponzi scheme. Like that guy's like the perfect fall guy for something like this, because he's already an asshole. You already nailed him on one thing. Let's just like throw this on top of it, or you'll get like those fringe people like that, like maybe like C or D list actors or something like that maybe fell off or had like a drug problem. Those are going to be the ones that maybe get the bus thrown on them, because nobody gives a shit about them. And everybody else at the top that might have been even more involved will just sort of get the pass, and they'll get to ride off into the sunset, and we'll never really find out. But
yeah, I don't think we're getting shit on Epstein. I don't think we'll ever get a fucking thing out of that. And again, I know it's a touchy subject. I know I can't really speak my mind too much on this particular platform, because the powers to be that we host our videos on already don't like us very much, but I think it all has to do with the government that he's tied to, and the fact that government fucking owns ours for whatever reason.
And if you guys want to make us like a featured channel here, we're happy to just be exclusive
I'll
to
fucking
Rumble
say
too.
it all, baby. I'll say all the fucking
we're happy
words.
to be on your platform here. It's like Chris Pavlovsky, I believe his name is. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm going to look it up real quick. Pavlovsky or Pavlovsky. Chris
You're
Pavlovsky.
pretty damn close.
Maybe we'll edit that last part. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to waste any time editing. But Chris Pavlovsky, we're here for you, baby, on Rumble. If you want to make us an exclusive channel, put us right at the top, monetize us there instead. Yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough, and it's sad that we're going to see another person that's integral to this case bite the dust. And I think the more that it happens, and this goes back to the broader question about whistleblowers, which I guess this really wasn't a whistleblower episode in so much as it is about Guffrey, is does this do these events deter more people from wanting to speak out? I mean, we talked about it a lot in the UFO thing, right? Where we said, if enough of you come out and speak up and say something, then what are they going to do? Right? Like, they can't silence everybody. But in order for that to happen, it's got to start with one. It starts with one thing. I don't know why.
Yeah, but it started with Bob Lazar back in the 80s, right? Like, he was kind of
on the UFO side, yeah.
On the UFO side, right? Like, that, to me, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, that's like the original source of... I mean, I guess he was a whistleblower, right? He was a whistleblower. You can call him a whistleblower.
100% a whistleblower,
He's kind of the be-all, end-all of whistleblowers when it comes to UFOs. And it's kind of like he came out in the 80s and said that shit. And here we are in 2025. Yeah. And, all right, I guess we know a little bit more, kind of.
Right.
You know.
That's it, man. It's like... And it's one of those things, too, where it's not like there's like a Facebook group for, people, girls that were on Epstein Island or something like that, where you can kind of like connect, but you almost have to seek that out, and not being maybe a little bit ignorant to how the whole thing was set up, but like you had to have at least some interaction with other people that were involved and some involvement. Like, seek them out. And this is not just to people that are involved with Epstein or Diddy. This is to whistleblowers out there, everybody. This is our call to all whistleblowers out there. If you're listening, this will be a great clip for you. Our call to all whistleblowers: band together, find the people that you know. And I know that you can't trust them all, but find as many as you can, and all of you come out at once and share your stories and record yourselves. Don't queue it up like the Boeing guy did, where he's going to fly down to DC and he's going to go on a show and I'm going to make my big announcement in 2 weeks' time. If there is something nefarious that's going to happen, you're setting yourself up for that, right? You're staging it. Grab a mic, grab a camera. You got your cell phone. Everybody's got a cell phone, right? Grab your cell phone, go on live, Instagram Live, Facebook Live, X Live, Rumble Live, YouTube Live. Pick your favorite platform and stream. Do them all. Go to riverside.com. That's where we record our stuff. Sign up. Maybe they have a promo code that we can use too, and you can get us an extra month for free. Don't know. But there's enough platforms out there that are free or that don't cost a thing, or you can get your message out and tell all your friends to do it, or your colleagues or whatever they are to you now. But get everyone to do it all at once. Because the more that these stories hit in volume, the harder it is to start silencing people. Because then what happens is, if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in succession start dropping like flies, it wakes everybody up. And I realize that nobody wants to be the person that's like putting themselves out there and like risking their own life for that. Totally respect that. Totally understand that. But hedge your bets, man, right? Like, what's behind the scenes, and how government or people in power operate and what they're capable of. There are strengths in numbers, and until when one person stands up, it's worthless. But if that one person can urge 10 and then 20 and then 100 and then 1,000 people to stand up from different walks, what are you going to do then? You can't do anything. Right. There's a small select group of them. And once people start to realize that, or maybe the underlings of those people, that you're getting lied to too, they're not going to fall in line anymore, right? So that's my call out, Phillips, to everyone out there that's a whistleblower.
Look, I agree. And also to the general public that's interested in this, don't be satisfied with the fucking narrative, or don't be satisfied when the narrative just falls off and the narrative disappears, right? And that so oftentimes is the case with many of these types of stories, right? There's media coverage and then it just fucking dies, right? I mean, you could take something as, look at the New Jersey drones. Did we ever get a real, true update on that or an explanation? We got a half-assed one, and that was it. And then it just kind of fell off the map. Don't give up. If you're interested in it, keep researching it. Reach out. I mean, look, we talked to Jennifer Guskin. We got her on here. We're fucking nobodies, man. Nobody knows who we are. And we got the opportunity to talk to somebody who was actually there. So if you're interested about it, don't buy what the legacy media is telling you or not telling you because they just dropped the story. Pursue it. If you're interested, keep reading about it. Reach out to the people. Give them a platform, man. Give somebody else a fucking platform. If you're somebody like us who's interested, maybe you have a channel, whatever it might be, reach out to somebody. Hit them up on X. That's how we do it. We're not paying people to come on. Nobody's ever gotten a dime. We don't make a dime off of this, right? Like, reach out to people. Don't let it die. Keep it going, right? You know you're fucking being lied to. We all know that we're being lied to about a lot of different things. I just dropped my vape. I'm getting so fired up. We're all being lied to about a million different fucking things, man. It's 2025. Wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up and get out there. Don't let it go. Don't let it go. Keep talking about it. That's it.
I love a fired up Phillips. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna have to probably bleep the hell out of that to post it on a social network, but goodness gracious, I love it.
Fuck it.
That's as easy as a place to end it for us, folks. What do you think about Virginia Giuffre? Do you think it was intentional, or let me rephrase that. Do you think it was her intention, or do you think it was intentionally done by somebody else? Tell us in the comments. Whether you're on Spotify, Rumble, or YouTube, the comments are open. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And while you're there, click the follow, like, subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. It takes 3 seconds to do. Follow us on all social networks. You can find those channels at conspiracyrealist.com. And you can find our podcast on just about every channel, whether it's Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a 5-star review on there too. Amazon Podcasts, which I didn't even know was a thing, but apparently it's a big one. Podbean, all these other exciting ones out there. We hope we don't say anything to piss the wrong people off, because we want to be back every single week to do this. So in order to do that, we thank each of you for tuning in here. Until next time, raise your glass to mysteries, ladies and gentlemen. This has been another episode of Cocktails and Conspiracies.